we're doing Meet Me VC, which is launching soon, where you should actually think about coming on that in this season 2, Dan, where just showcasing VCs, 5-minute videos out to the community about, it's about that connecting piece that I think everyone's found difficult, even though we've all tried, and some of it's worked. We all love hopping, and some of those things are really working quite well.
There's been an acceptance to it. I think one thing that I've really loved, because we're having founder conversations, we're having LP conversations to close fund 2, and what's been I think has been really warming is that people have accepted the limitations and are much more receptive to Zooms, and I think I was surprised by it on both sides. I mean, we did our first deal, I think, in April last year with the founding team, having not met them. And that felt super odd, but now it's completely normal. And the LP calls that we're having, we've closed 3 LPs and we've never met them. So I think that's nice. I think it's a nice, I think it's lovely. It's a lovely thing.
Hopefully that continues and people don't go back.
We discussed that earlier.
Well, I mean, okay, we'll be let out of our cages over the next 3 months, but this isn't going anywhere. I mean,
no,
certainly hope not.
It's a new way of life. I'm not going back to the office full time. I mean, I don't know how you guys were remote before, weren't you? So
we pretty much. I mean, I wouldn't say I was a visionary in 2017, but I wanted a business that was work from home, freelancer. I think I was probably one of the first ever adopters of Zoom, and I still haven't paid for it. Sorry, Mr. Zoom.
There's something you cannot. I mean, I was talking to a VC friend a couple of months back, and then a report came out around how VCs make their decisions, and it really resonated. It basically said, roughly speaking, it's 50% gut feeling and 50% data. And the earlier the stage, the more the kind of the below the neck, and the later the stage, the decision making is more above the neck. It's fairly obvious stuff, but it kind of just put it all into black and white for me. It's like, that's so true. And a lot of the gut feeling and the heart feeling and that whole below the neck energy stuff is in the room. It's in the room. And as you guys know, because you've spoken to loads of monkeys like me, this is all about people. This isn't about a fucking spreadsheet. This is all about, are you the guys to do this, and girls? Is this the team? Is this the magic set? Is this the thing? And that's not above the neck. I want to feel you in the room. I want to understand the energy.
Mix it up.
Yeah, I do. But I think you're right, Chris, insofar as 80% of it is now there's an allowance to Zoom. I'm just still amazed, and that's a bit of an old subject, but I'm still amazed that nobody talks about Skyping.
No,
this is the thing. Skype had a how many year head start? Even they even got bought, by Microsoft, right? It should have been in pole position for it. Completely dropped the ball.
I have one angel that whenever we Skype together for a sort of bi-weekly chat, and it's so funny because he says to me, are you still the top of the list of the last call that I've had? It's just no one's using it, and it would eating their lunch and breakfast.
Well, I get that the Skype strategy was not
mass market.
No, it wasn't. It was always just to load it into whatever their platform is to become a business communication toolkit. But what an opportunity missed.
I think it's going to go the same way as MSN Messenger, to be honest.
I totally agree. And they balked it anyway with those stupid icons. And you felt like you were in like a kid's playground whenever you open it. It's like, oh, just stop this shit.
So,
Sorry.
You've kind of hinted at.
I'm going to have to put the explicit tag on this video.
Yeah, all right. I'll play nicely. I'll be nice.
No. Be as we like you to say it as you mean. It's completely no bars hold. So Dan, on the whole, you've alluded to the SUPERseed. You're busy. What you're investing? What's the kind of gig at the moment for people who perhaps don't know SUPERseed so well and want to understand the nature of the fund and the focus?
Okay, so it's super simple focus. So we invest in technical founders building business automation platforms. So the way that I tell my wife and people that don't know the VC startup world is all of the boring shit that goes on behind a Glaxo Smithkline. We love the platforms that go on in that world and change the way that people work. So anything that's dealing with payroll or HR or operations, whatever it might be, the smart founders that want to get into big business with this very clever technology to truly transform the way they work, that's what we invest in.
Interesting. And are there a lot of those types of business at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Too many?
No, you can never have too many. Well, okay, so let's unpack that a bit. There aren't too many. There are lots of, well, let's start at one end of the spectrum. There are lots of really smart people building really smart stuff that will never see the light of day. And there's a lot of stuff that kind of gets in and makes hay that really probably shouldn't. Mm-hmm. And there's a real swathe of, and I think, I mean, even though we feel that maybe technology has disrupted a lot and changed a lot and created a lot, it hasn't touched the sides. If you look at a lot of industries and sectors, I mean, COVID has created and forced change, Zoom being one of them, and whiteboarding for education, or, you know, flexible working platforms for helping people deal with, you know, distributed teams. Yeah. But we're still not even touching the sides in, I mean, even in those sectors that I just mentioned, like let's use education as an example, there's still so much to do. Insurance, healthcare, all of the stuff that has been affected by COVID, there's still so much to do with tech. So
with education, it's so funny because, you know, we're still cancelling the exams, the GCSEs and the A-levels.
Don't get me started.
Why isn't there a platform?
Don't get me started.
And they regressed from the algorithm as well. They said, actually, this year, no algorithm. We're going backwards.
It's crazy bonkers. And they've all gone, okay, we're going to use like whatever the Google education platform is, or the Microsoft. This is crazy. And there's still so much to do. I still call to book a GP appointment. Okay, GPs are getting smarter or whatever. I still get letters. We had a new daughter in November last year. I still get letters for her early years health checks and health visitation. What are you doing? I mean, just as light examples, there's still so much.
It's even things, you know, in the essence of like your local council. Where did they disappear to in COVID? You know, you didn't see them a lot before, but they just completely vanished during COVID. And you get a leaflet through the door, like saying, "Are you affected by COVID?" And like,
shielding.
You don't know, do you? You just have no kind of
shielding. That's what's happened. They're like, we can't see anybody. We're isolating.
It's still bonkers.
So
yeah, I know that's a really good point about the opportunity. Sorry, Anthony, you go.
To your point on those industries on the side that haven't been touched, this is one thing that I think is very interesting about B2B when you look at the different verticals. Some of them have embraced automation technology and made it part of their business model. Some industries are just still very analog. You guys are obviously experts in the space. Why do you think that is? Why are some industries blazing a trail and some industries are, you know, at the worst resisting even?
It's need. It all comes down to burning underpants, and those that don't change don't have burning underpants. It's that basic. There's a lot of legacy. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of old farty. So
I completely concur with that, Dan. I mean, it's funny because when we're advising some of these businesses, and we have our funnel and the pipe, and you know, very kindly recommended by good people in the industry, VCs and different, you know, other key people, the founders we worked with before. The really interesting thing that we always, even more so probably in the last 12 to 18 months, is it's like need. Does this industry really need what you provide? And some of them you kind of like go, okay, I think they do, and you give them the benefit of the doubt, and then you very quickly realize when you're working with a pre-seed to Series A business, when there's not a need, it's kind of like, oh dear, there's not a need. And then you try and convince the founder to sort of that there isn't a need, and they're like, no, there still is, and it's like a Mexican standoff.
This is mission critical. I guarantee it. So then, in your opinion, Dan, is it inevitable for some of those other verticals, one way or another, they'll either have to embrace it at some point, or they'll just fall away?
No, well, they'll always. I mean, we're looking at a lot of deadwood, especially in retail at the moment, aren't we? I mean, look at what who's that tosser, Philip Green. So all the stuff that he was doing and siphoning off cash to his wife and all that stupid. And what they should have been doing was investing in online. I mean, he had all of the markers 10 years ago of where the industry was going, and ignored all of them just to siphon off the cash.
Yeah, made a nice lifeboat for himself, didn't he?
Yeah, and you kind of think on one hand, good for him, but not. I mean, sorry, but that comes from the standpoint of business isn't just about rinsing the cash. It's about creating all of the ecosystems and microcosms to create a better world, as trite as that sounds. So you want to create good business that creates more good business, that does more good business.
The multiplier effect.
That's how the world should work. So the common thread is that, let's take the insurance market for an example. And this is happening right now, the insurance industry will not move. Old farty, legacy systems, old people, just not thinking that way. And I'm being a bit unfair, but bear with me. So what's happening is there are a whole swathe of insurance startups coming through and taking niches like commercial or auto or personal, whatever it might be, and doing it in a completely new, different way. And then what that will do, that will create the need, that will set the fire within the organizations. And then all of those big organizations will then
adapt or die.
Yeah, adapt or die. And that's great. But I just want to knock on dead wood and say, what are you doing, you
Wake
idiots?
up.
Invest in these guys. Apply this technology. Think differently. It doesn't take much off the balance sheet. It's not it's not crazy. Get involved with funds like ours. Get involved directly with the startups.
Add value to your shareholders.
Do something, you idiots. But I get it. If you're sat in a big brown building in Birmingham, and this is how you've always done stuff, then that's how you always do stuff.
Sometimes the biggest risk is to do nothing, right, rather than do something.
So that really augurs a really interesting question, Dan. That obviously you've got this quite amazing deal flow coming into you, a lot of companies. And then, on the other side, you've got like, will this really actually work with the industry that you're trying to, or the bit of the industry? I mean, how do you sort of know that founder, that business is the one? Is it like almost instantaneous? Is it kind of through the team and lots of research? Just give us the feel for the decision-making process.
Well, number one, it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what we think as a team. It only matters what the market thinks. Obvious things to say. So all we do is focus, and we use sales. Our fund is all sales driven. It's all about creating go-to-market. It's all around as and when the founders need it, we plug them in to sort out their positioning, their purpose, their mission, their vision, what they're doing and how they're presenting to the world to create change. But it only matters what the market thinks. So pre-investment, we sell with them and as them. And then post-investment, we help them build the right processes and teams to create go-to-market strategies that win. So it's all about getting either market validation or a no from a client, which is obviously product market fit information, which is just as valuable as the yes, which becomes cash. So we use sales as that sharp, pointy bit of the ship to go and attack the market. And some of that we do warm. So some of that's through our network, because my partner and I are old and we've done this for a number of years. So we've got a vast network that we can go, Bill, Susie, Tommy, give me the warts and all warm feedback. And then we'll do, just as much effort cold, which is never spoken. They obviously become part of the network, but we try and reach into a vast cold network to get real brutal cold response as well.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. It's almost like a bit of a hybrid model between more traditional private equity and then venture capital, which obviously is kind of a form of private equity. But, it's quite an interesting model that obviously has some great success, but some interesting data points as well.
Well, I mean, the buyout stuff, I don't know what you mean by that, but the
As
early
in,
stage
private equity will usually get involved in growing the business as well, quite directly, is more what I meant.
Yeah, but that's just spreadsheet stuff, and that's fine to a degree. Well, they make lots of money, and good for them. But VC is, you're not. I tell you where there is a blur. We're not business building, so we're not like the VCs that do the full value add, designers, technicians, marketing people, whatever they might be. We only do the sales part of it, because you kind of want the founders to run their own ship, be their own people, do their own thing, and that's sorting out the stuff below. But you really want to, at early stage, create the commercial structure, because the Americans do it so well. The Americans love doing a deal. It's all about the cash. How do you do the deal? There's no, we Brits are a little bit, sales is a dirty word, and we don't really want to talk about going to market. I just want to sit in a dark room and make cool code. So get out, sell, go and ask the client, go and sell the thing, and go and have that conversation. So that I think is a slight, there's a crossover in that, but I don't fully agree with the PE analogy.
So you, Dan, you mentioned Brits. Would I be right in assuming that the majority of the founders you work with are UK based, or are you more?
Well, they're all UK based, but they are European. There's a few Canadians, Turks, French. They're all UK based. So we for two reasons. We've got two funds. One is an EIS fund and one is a standard LPGP. So the EIS is very UK centric. The LPGP is UK Eurocentric, but we want to feed very selfishly. We want to feed our own community, and I want to look after the UK, and I want the UK to be the springboard to the world for startups, and I want the UK to catch up with the American, figures. I mean, what we do, we have unicorns in a year, what they have in a month, kind of thing. I'm not unicorn schmunicorn. Who cares about that? I want to build substantial businesses. Most of their unicorns are bullshit, because they're all never business models. They're all the WeWorks, the Ubers, the SPACs, which is just nonsense. It's fueling. It's another vehicle to fuel more of this infinitesimial bubble, which just gets absorbed into public markets and screws our pensions and our grandparents. And it's just bullshit. So I only invest in real business models, solving real business problems for real people. Otherwise, what's the point? But I still want those figures. I still want those metrics. I want the UK to be that successful.
Mm. And do you think we're still on the right path? Has COVID derailed us a bit?
No, I don't think COVID's derailed at all. If you look at the figures, in fact, COVID, there's two sides to it. One, asset prices haven't changed. Last GFC, asset prices changed. They haven't changed this time. So everything basically has stayed bedrock. And money is exceptionally cheap. Inflation is low. And there's still loads of dry powder, loads of top-down cash coming in. So we've got this opportunity now to take this new disrupted world and take all of this cash and all of this resource and then allocate it more for us, very selfishly, get more of that into the UK. And then now is where magic happens for startups. If you think what came out of the last crisis in the Airbnbs, Pinterests and WeWorks and whatever, a lot of that was successful because of that level of disruption. It gave them a springboard into their new markets. If you think about all of the things that you don't know as a business, you don't know about timing when you start your startup, do you? And it's one of those things, getting the timing right is a massive thing. You might have the team, you might have the cash, great idea, but you don't know when the timing is. Now you know when the timing is. You know that we're in a period of disruption, dislocation, relocation, things are going. So you kind of know how people are going to behave. So if you can build stuff now, when it's all, when everyone's playing musical chairs and everything's being shuffled around, set your ground roots down now. Build your business now. So that I think, lots of cash, nowhere to put it because we're walking into negative interest rates. Nowhere to put it. Get it into early stage startup. And the irony is that most VCs have gone upstream. They've gone up to Series A, B for the safe money, and everyone's moved out of seed. That's a lie, but
they should be going the other way.
They should be coming down. I don't want them to because that's where we live, but they should be coming down. This is where the magic is. This is where the multiples are. this is where the opportunity is, and you can de-risk it in really sensible ways. So anyway.
So have you seen corporate inquiries into automating go up, stay constant, go down during the crisis?
No, haven't noticeably seen any change. I just wrote an article on this actually about industry 4.0 and where the opportunities are and why it's now, and how especially mid-sized corporates should think. I mean, if you're Amazon and those kinds of big players and you've got more money than God, then it's easy for you to keep pushing, keep playing, keep innovating if you want to, because you've got all the money, all the resource, all the network, all. But the mid-sized teams that don't have that should be thinking differently right now, especially in the kind of the manufacturing, or all the stuff that's going to be touched by industry 4.0 and the deeper tech applications. Now is the moment to shine. Now is the time to create your new world.
Yeah,
but they haven't been. Not that I've seen. I don't know if I'm being fair or true, but we haven't had any more inquiries. Our outreach has had the same response rate. So I don't think so.
Yeah, I guess if you're Amazon, the cost of a failed experiment is a lot less than if you're a smaller size company trying to experiment in something that's mission critical.
But they should be doing it now. They should be doing it now while
volumes are lower.
Yeah, and things are being disrupted. Now, I understand. So I assume what they're doing is trying to work out what the new world looks like for them, so they can, sell into the new world. But to do that, you need to change your position, adapt your offering, adapt your pricing and packaging, and do all this clever stuff down here. And that's where the startup thinking and the startups that are disrupting those industries, they should be engaging with those teams now to help them on that journey.
Yeah, well,
I've not seen that so much.
By that logic, then we are right at the beginning of a wave of business automations, if that's what they're doing now.
I would like to say that's true. I have not seen any evidence of it. I mean, our portfolio, so we did 12 investments last year, or just over 18 months. So let's put it into a year for whatever. And their revenues grew nearly 5-fold. And they're all business automation startups. So there is activity. They are selling, they are doing, and they were not COVID interrupted, because business automation needs to happen regardless of up and down times. But their clients are still not thinking how I would think they should think.
It's interesting.
Still not doing enough.
Jack Welch talks about, sometimes getting whacked on the head in business, and that the next time round you learn how to duck. I wonder if that will be one of the learnings in the pandemic, is that they should be regularly investing and experimenting in automations in case something happens next time and they get disrupted again. So only time will tell.
And the great thing about startup is that it's not massively long like sales or implementation cycles. These guys are exceptionally agile and can improve either step or marginal gain, improve your business very quickly. So there's almost no excuse. They're gagging to get into these companies, will work 20-hour days at ridiculous rates to do it. So they're there. They
need the buy-in. Yeah.
just open the door.
Yeah.
So I was going to take a step back to when you were talking about the UK. We need to grab the money, build the UK, become great, and the great in Great Britain, or whatever people say. What is there anything you highlight, Dan, that we need to be doing more of now or in the next 12 to 18 months to make sure that we get that money, that focus in the next 5 to 10 years? Is it government? Is it other areas? Is it, just a sort of any niggles that you think we need to fix quick to make sure that great promise happens?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to answer that, and the big bear in the room is regulation. So because humans are greedy and stupid, the only way to enable change is to create regulation, and I want to punch government in the face to create the framework and the infrastructure. And to be fair, I've seen a lot of initiatives that are actually, I think, very sensible. So Rishi Sunak has now created a new fund for later stage tech which I think is eminently sensible. So we're all going to be VCs, whether we like it or not. We already are through ECF and BBB and whatever, and obviously EAS and SEAS, as you guys know, has been at the low end of that scale. So they've got the low end, the mid, and now they've just launched a later stage tech fund. Great. Okay. But they need to regulate. So we need to create the regulatory framework that's going to enable a clean economy, because why are we still fighting about whether, there's climate change or not? It's just fucking nonsense. We should be building the economy as if it was anyway, because there's so much to do. There's so many jobs to create. There's so much money to be made. There's so many virtuous circles to create. The worst case is we're a little bit wrong, and maybe we shouldn't have closed so many coal mines so quickly. So if there's a way to create clean energy, why wouldn't you just do it, climate change or not? So I don't understand that. So that kind of regulatory framework needs to be implemented yesterday.
Especially because pollution has all these health impacts and all these negative externalities. Anyway, there's all these benefits besides not dying in a fiery death ball.
It's a non-argument, right? It doesn't matter whether climate change exists. We should just be going in there. And that's just one example. And how they can create adapt the tax structure a little bit more. They're doing some good and great things, I think, and then they need to regulate a lot of other industries to create the opportunities which will force smarter behaviors. So I think regulation is the bedrock, and then on top of that, we need to be investing in our own country, in our own people, in our own infrastructure. I don't want to get all Trumpian, USA first or whatever nonsense lines he come up with, but there's a lot of things that we should be doing, regionally, and rather than London being the center of the universe, that can get young people coding, get education, thinking about why aren't schools teaching you about money and about what democracy is. Why are we learning Pythagoras and what happened with Franz Ferdinand? Why are we learning about relationships and what money really is? And
might be time for an update.
Really so there's a lot of stuff that can be done, but I think the bedrock of it is getting the regulatory framework and the tax framework set to create innovation.
I suppose now I just want to touch on back to basics in a way, and you clearly have a lot of experience, Dan, in meeting many founders and many other funds. Keen to sort of hear your perspective on when you have that moment when you're in a room with a founder and they have a death by a million pitches or whatever it's called, and you think, oh my God, why did they just say that? Any sort of tips on the founder side, and then clearly similarly for VCs that you interact with, because I think a number of our listeners are perhaps budding VCs or people who are keen to get into the industry. So over to you, Sar.
What's the question on the founder side? Is it how to pitch a VC?
Well, just kind of like, where you've seen people that have come to you, pitch to you, and you just think, why did you say that? You were doing so well.
Very few of those, don't get so much of that because they're weeded out early. I see about 5,000 decks a year, of which about 1,000 get taken seriously.
5,000? Wow.
About 5,000, yeah.
And how does that, I'm always curious, how does that work? Do you have other VCs sending you decks? Do you have, obviously,
you get direct, you get network. We have a scout network that goes out and they're basically owners, managers, runners of tech communities. Mm-hmm. So we've got partner network, we've got our scout network, and then we get direct. And then there's a few other stragglers, like, other groups or whatever.
And do you have some automations built into your evaluation and due diligence process? Because otherwise, that's almost 14 pitch decks a day.
Yeah, no, we don't. Obviously, I'm not dealing with all of. Well, I do see most of those. I think, if not all, but a lot of it is that you get very good at becoming a very quick filter. And we take about 1,000 of those decks. We'll take semi seriously, so they'll get processed to some degree.
So and that process is one of the team look at detail,
so first
do the digging around.
There's a first pass by one of our analysts who will do a first pass, and we have a 12-step, sounds like AA. We have a 12-step matrix of which team and market at the center of that. So are they the right team, and is there a hungry market? And then there's all of the stuff that I'm sure you and all of your listeners will know. So that gives us effectively a layer of filtering, which we'll see actively maybe another 10% through 10% of that. And then we'll invest in one every 6 weeks. I think COVID, we were slightly slower early COVID. So last year it was maybe one every 8 weeks. And that's the kind of cadence. But the early stuff is very, very short shrift, because it has to be, because you just can't process that many. And I see so many startups now building platforms that are matching, because a lot of what we do can be automated. So we've built a lot of automation stuff on the investor side, but not so much on the founder side, because we've been waiting for the market, because the market looks like it. And I'm sure you've seen them. There's lots of tools that are now starting to become the matchmaking platforms for VCs and angels and startups and founders. So there was lots of stuff for founder matching, and now there's a whole swathe of, it feels like a bunch of startups doing the investment matching process. So we've been kind of waiting for the market to deliver a tool that works, and we've seen 3, 4, 5 of those, but they still haven't built what I need. I need a widget on my website that not only does it filter for us, oh, we a good match, and it does that, and then they filter through, but also takes the ones that aren't a good match, let's say they're B2C, and then filters it through to the rest of the network that are a good match. And if all of the VCs and investment groups had this, it's a great network effect, had this widget on their site, we could save a whole world of founder pain, and yet no one's built it yet.
Any entrepreneurs listening, there's your task.
I've told a few. I've told the I can't remember there's the Dexender guys and one of the other guys. I've told them to build this for me.
Doxend, is it?
No. There's Dexender who are building something they're trying to build a connection platform for startups and VCs, angels as VCs. And there's another one. There's 3 that I like. And I've got a conversation later this month with another one saying, just build this for me. I will give you money. I will tell you what we need. Yet no one has asked. So that's what I'm waiting to be built. And that will really add value to the community, because just because we say no doesn't mean that it's a no. It just means that you're not on strategy for us. You know, we have a very particular niche.
Entrepreneurs, there's money on the table.
I want to say yes.
There's money on the table. Come get it.
It's a massive problem that needs to be solved.
And then you mentioned you're launching, or you're on a fundraise for, is that, I assume, for Fund 3?
Well, we've invested our own money. So Fund 1 is our own cash and some of our network. So we built a little EAS fund, put in a lot of our own money, did some of our own investments to prove the model and put some skin in the game, a couple of million quid, put another couple of million quid in, and we keep that running. That's an evergreen fund, and we'll keep deploying. We just don't have the same firepower as the LPGP. And we're about 3/4 of the way through that. It's a £45 million fund, same thesis, business automation, technical founders at seed, changing the world, same thing. But we want to do not 300, 400, 500K tickets. We want to do million, 1.5 million. We want to take more, do more, lead more, do it quicker, be smarter, and really back our own teams.
And with that sort of fund perspective in mind, Dan, we talked to a number of the other VCs. Is there a large amount of new interesting funds coming on board?
Yeah,
COVID stopped that?
No, I think there's a lot of new funds coming online. A lot of the old stalwarts have moved upstream, as we've already spoken about.
Yeah.
There are a lot of niche funds. There are a lot of funds serving underserved communities. There are a lot of female-driven funds. So not a lot, but there are a number of not male, pale, stale funds, which is fabulous. So I think VC will actually become a more democratized engine for deployment of capital. You've already seen Passion doing a round on Seeders. I think that's the first I might be lying. I know there's only other. I think this is the first standard LPGP fund that's raised on a crowdfunding platform. Everything else has been EIS or SEIS. So that's a really, I don't know how they've done it, but that's a really interesting model.
I don't know how they've done that. Yeah, that's interesting.
So yeah, so not only has government got into tech, so we're all a VC whether we like it or not, but I think VC will become more automated, will become more democratized, will break out into more and more deeper niches to specialize in impact in, I don't know, the Sudan with solar or whatever it might be. There'll be lots of different plays on how people can invest, and it will give more people more access to it.
Yeah, and then you mentioned your sort of focus, bigger chunks in the investment thesis. How do you view, I suppose, the end of the pipe at the moment when you look at some of these businesses that you're helping, you're working with, you're building? Are you looking for what type of exit? Is it a 10x? Is it an IPO? Is it the next unicorn? Is it what's your thought process there?
No, I like really healthy trade sales. I want to build. When we first started the fund, I said to my partner, I want an 80% success rate, and he said, "You're smoking something," because obviously, as we know, the common bandied figure is 90% of startups fail. It's probably not. Just depending on when you call a startup, an
and also business. What kind of startups are you including in that? I think that's like all encompassing, hairdressers, etc.
Yeah, so the real rate is probably about 95-97%, depending on the figures that you believe, a failure rate. And I wanted to flip it. I wanted to flip that figure on its head. And he said, "No, you're smoking crack. We're not going to talk about that." That said, I want to get the majority of our portfolio to be really healthy trade sales within 5 to 7 years, 50, 100 million quid a pop. That would be, I don't want unicorns. I want dragons, or let's find another name for it. I think unicorn, schmunicorn, and a lot of that stuff is just finance. It's tailwind nonsense, and it's not real, and it's not healthy for the economy. It'd be nice to, don't get me wrong, if we had a real business. I mean, some of them are real businesses making real change and becoming unicorns. But then you've got things like Clubhouse becoming a unicorn, which is fucking crazy.
It doesn't even have an Android app.
Well, we do debate Clubhouse a bit, and I think in one of our recent VODs is there going to be a Clubhouse SPAC? It's kind of like it's just so mentally stupid that
let's take two overhyped things and stick them together.
Sorry, Anthony.
I said let's take two overcrazed things and stick them together.
Yeah.
Clubhouse.
I gather by your views, Dan, you haven't set up the SUPERseed Clubhouse open hours yet.
Well, we've talked about it because my partner nagged me a few months ago to be more vocal and be more social and have a voice and build a personal brand. And because I'm such an opinionated prick anyway, to be more out there and do more stuff. And I've always been quite resistant because I don't like it. And as noisy and as arrogant as I can be, I don't like it. I don't like being the center of attention. But I kind of want, when people say stupid things, I want to say, "Shut up, you idiot. It's like this," and debate it. But and I'm very sensitive as well. I don't like people not liking me, or so I'm caught in this juxtaposition of being an extreme extrovert and an extreme introvert in the same body. So I'm a little bit psychotic, or
that could probably work on Clubhouse, because what I've experienced so far has been
get rich quick. How do I Bitcoin? What do I do? Actually. Yeah, so I like the medium. I like the idea of having live voice. I mean, obviously, why Twitter or Facebook? I mean, they're gonna deliver their own versions. I don't think that Clubhouse will be necessarily the brand name, but that as a format, I believe it will live. And having live audio where people can have a live podcast or live show, I think that there's something in that. But I don't care. I mean, why Zoom could do that?
Isn't it? It's like
YouTube already has YouTube Live, for instance. So
yeah, and I think that I imagine that some of the Big Four and some of other players. There's already a number of contenders coming through to do live audio. I think that will become a format. And maybe Clubhouse will keep the mantle. I mean, the product's pretty shoddy.
It's cool.
So and it's not a nice experience to use it, but being in a room, I think how they've thought of the customer experience in a room is great, but everything else around it I think is pretty lousy. I like the invite only. I like that it was iOS and it felt quite exclusive, and that it was invite only. It annoyed a lot of people, but so what? Created a lot of noise, and I think that's all worked very well. That the rooms work well. I mean, you go on there, my God, how do you find the good stuff? You only go to the things that you're invited to, because the rest of it is tosh.
It is drivel.
Yeah. So I like the format. They are overvalued, overfunded, in Silicon Valley gone crazy. But I like
poster boy in the valley.
And what a load of nonsense.
I still think
no viable model.
The number one poster boy for peak VC is still Juicero. I don't know if you two saw that.
I don't know what that is. I don't know Juicero.
So it was funded like 400 million by Google Ventures or something for this smart juicer that comes in a packet, and it's like a 10-step thing to get the juicer set up. It's on Wi-Fi and all this stuff. And then Bloomberg Quick Take did a 30-second video. They took the pouch, squeezed it into a glass, dead. Yeah. It just went out the window after that, and it's folded.
I remember that in Bloomberg. Actually.
Good one. If you haven't heard of it, Google it.
Yeah, it's funny. I was going to actually add, Dan, I've been pretty impressed by your LinkedIn posts. I've been responding, and yeah, they're good. They're very, you've got a nice following there. I mean, it's growing. I mean,
yeah,
you enjoy doing those?
I
and
enjoy
also the podcast as well. You podcast, is it paid for it?
I do Pay It Forward Friday. So the idea was, and it had a bit of a peak and then it's died. So the idea was that you host or guest, and then if you've become a host or a guest, then if you're a host, you pay it forward. So you get somebody to become a host, and then you create some more guests, and then between us, we could get through LinkedIn in 8 days. I think the viral effect would take 8 days for everyone to speak to everyone, or have a meaningful conversation with at least one person on LinkedIn to try and add value, change your life, do something and improve something. So I had a sway, did about 30 odd hosts at first and over 100 guests, and people were getting jobs, they were pivoting their startups, and then it's kind of died because it's a lot of effort. So I do it religiously every Friday, regardless. I do it every Friday, find a random stranger that I don't know, speak to them and try and open the network or help them think about a business problem in a new way. I did a fascinating one this morning with a guy who's going from C to A, a great recruitment business, and wow, whip smart. So I'll put that together and post it. But it's become a content thing for me, which wasn't the point. The point was just to show the video, to show this is what you could do. Everyone go off and do it. And I mean, there are still people doing it, but it's not had I wanted people to talk in COVID times and help each other and use LinkedIn as a platform to do that. But yeah, maybe it'll come around again. Maybe it'll have little kind of peaks and troughs.
Yeah, it's good. I like it. So I think on my side, I've really enjoyed catching up. Curious outside of work life. I
don't have a life. I've got 2 kids.
You mentioned kids.
I've got 2 kids, 2 dogs, 2 horses, and everyone else comes first. I'm just a minion.
2 horses.
My wife's an eventer. So before the kids, she was an eventer. So she would be doing cross country and dressage and all that clever horsey stuff. I don't like them. They smell and they cost a lot of money and they're expensive lawnmowers, but she's in love and that's her passion, and that's that.
Okay.
There you go.
And watching anything at the moment? We always like to ask.
I started watching Your Honor yesterday. Have you seen that?
It sounds really familiar. They got some notoriety.
Bryan Cranston, a new TV series, Bryan Cranston on Sky called Your Honor. And it's really dark and miserable. And I've watched 2 episodes, and every night I go to bed and I cry a little bit because it's just really miserable.
If you want to watch something that'll make you cry, there's a movie on Amazon Prime called I Care a Lot. Highly recommend it. And it's based on a real social issue.
Is that the one with that amazing blonde actress, Rosamund
Gone
Pike?
Girl? Yeah, I forget her name.
Sheesh. So she's the social care. Yeah, that was good. I watched that on the weekend. That was
Doesn't
powerful.
that just make you
feel
terrible?
Yeah. And I have a mum with dementia, so that was really hard hitting. To obviously all nonsense, but that was very very heavy.
Well, that's the thing is, at least here in the UK, the laws are not the same as they are in the US with that guardianship stuff. So
yeah, I mean,
the interesting thing you said about Your Honour, Mrs. Lowe has just started watching it on my. I haven't seen it, but I said, "Oh, you should watch that thing with Bryan Cranston." And I have no idea what it's all about. I just heard from someone else.
Well done. Really good. It's nicely acted. It's nicely done.
Mrs. Lowe was like, it's going to take a bit of time for me to get into this. I was like, oh right. So it's.
I watched an episode, and then I was like, oh god, I feel like somebody just punched me in the gut, and then I go and make a cup of tea and sit down. Like, I'm not watching another one of those.
Yeah. Sounds dramatic.
Yeah,
it is very. I'm
probably going to watch it.
Yeah, it is. It's good. It's good, but that kind of stuff bothers me.
So, last one from me, Dan. I think I recollect we've had a few nice pints in Holborn-based pubs. Are you sort of longing for that sort of move back? No. I miss the London energy. It's nice just going, taking the team out for a burger, or I'm a big sushi fan, so there's some great sushi restaurants in town. Let's head into Soho and people watch. I love on a sunny afternoon. That's just magic. I mean, London is the greatest city in the world, so I do miss that energy. I live 2 hours away, so I have a 4-hour commute. I don't miss that. And I don't miss being in an office in London. I miss the serendipitous meetings. Let's just go for a coffee or a chat, or come in and see us. So I'll blend. I think most people will end up doing a blend. I would think I'll do 2-3 days a week in town and 2-3 days a week at home. I think work smart. That's it, isn't it? Really brilliant. All right. Well, look, what a lovely way to spend a Friday, having a chat to you. And
pleasure to see you again. It's been too long. So keep me posted what you need and what's going on and how it's going.
Yeah, great. Well, we're getting, the viewing figures are going up on our side for this. So I think we're doing our job in connecting people and spreading the wisdom of all great people like you.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I love it. Anybody that's kind of greasing the startup world, I love it.
Yeah, thanks, mate. That's really kind. Well, have a lovely weekend. Avoid the horses and take care. See you later.
I've been told I've got a curtsy now because everyone's doing their Zoom wave. I'm going to do my hi, bye. I'm going to bow. There you go.
My lordship. Thank you.
See you guys.
See you.